What if I told you that adding more to your RRSP, even when you've got the room, could actually leave you worse off later? Many Canadians have spent years diligently maxing out their RRSPs, but at a certain point, especially with $1 million or more in there, more contributions don't always translate into more after-tax wealth. In fact, they can drag you into higher tax brackets in retirement or even claw back your government benefits like old age security. And it's not just about today's tax break. It's about what those withdrawals will cost you down the road, thanks to RRIF minimums, marginal tax rates, and a few sneaky income thresholds that most people don't see coming until it's too late. So in this video, I'll walk you through how to know when RRSPs stop winning and when to shift towards TFSAs or non-registered strategies instead. Whether you're still earning or already eyeing retirement, this is the kind of planning that can save you tens of thousands quietly behind the scenes. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I'm Jacqueline Ozdemir, a financial advisor here at Ferguson Financial Planning at CI Assante Wealth Management. I spend a lot of my day helping people who've been careful, steady savers their whole lives, only to find out later that the way their money's structured is setting them up for bigger tax bills than they expected. I've seen it happen more than once. Someone maxes out their RRSP year after year, thinking they're doing everything right, and then retirement comes and those withdrawals push them into higher tax brackets or even clawback benefits they thought they'd keep. That's the kind of problem we can see coming if we run the numbers early, and it's exactly what today's video is about. So in today's video, I'm going to pull back the curtain on what I call the RRSP tipping point. I'll walk through the key concepts like how RRIF minimums work once you hit 71, a smarter way to balance contributions across RRSPs, TFSAs, and non-registered accounts, and the hidden tax cliffs like old age security clawbacks that can quietly erode your retirement income. If you find this video helpful, please hit like, leave a comment with your thoughts or questions below, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you catch future videos. All right, let's get into it. RRSP contributions feel like a no-brainer when you're in a high tax bracket. You drop $10,000 into your plan and you could save up to 50% of that right off your tax bill. But what if those same dollars come back to bite you later? That is the RRSP tipping point, where the tax you save today no longer outweighs the tax you'll pay when you withdraw. Let me explain with a mini case. Sam is 45, earns $250,000 in Ontario, and has $1.3 million in his RRSP account. This year, he considered a $30,000 top-up at roughly a 50% marginal tax rate. That's a $15,000 immediate tax refund or reduction of taxes owing. Sounds sweet. But fast forward 25 years, and Sam's RRIF withdrawals and other income push him above the OAS clawback line. More on that in a sec. His effective rate on every dollar withdrawn could hit 60% or more once you combine the regular tax rate with the 15% OAS clawback on income above the threshold. In plain terms, that $30,000 he parked now could cost him $18,000 between taxes and lost OAS through clawback, which is more than he saved today. Rate arbitrage is the rule of thumb. If your current marginal rate, let's call it 50%, exceeds your future marginal effective rate, let's call it 40%, you win by using RRSP. But flip that. If your future rate is equal or higher, TFSA or non-registered schemes often offer a better deal. You need to model not just bracket rates, but effective rates, including provincial surtaxes and clawbacks. In Sam's case, his projected retirement year rate is spiked by OAS recovery, pension income splitting limits, and those forced RRIF minimums. The takeaway? Don't assume that more RRSP is always more tax savings. When your RRSP balance gets close to $1 million or more, it's time for a quick math check. Estimate your likely withdrawal rates in retirement. If they outpace your current rates, hit pause on contributions and explore other buckets. You've probably heard of OAS or old age security, but fewer people realize how sharp the clawback can be. In 2025, it starts when your taxable income goes over $93,454. Every dollar above that threshold triggers a repayment of 15 cents of your old age security. Picture Laura, age 55, with $2 million in her RRSP. Fast forward to her retirement, her mandatory RRIF withdrawals at age 72 and other income push her gross income to about $120,000. At that level, her combined federal and provincial marginal tax rate is roughly 43%. Plus, she loses out on about half of her OAS due to clawbacks, making her effective tax rate even higher. So what can Laura do? Plan withdrawals to stay below or just up to the OAS threshold. Fill the lower tax brackets first, like the 20% range, before letting RRIF minimums or ad hoc RRSP withdrawals push her into clawback territory. In her case, that might mean taking a controlled $40,000 out of her RRSP at an earlier age than she had originally planned, like perhaps age 62, while she's still in a low tax bracket, instead of waiting until her income in retirement crosses $93,454. This will allow her to start winding down her RRSP earlier, controlling her income level and tax bracket, and help to avoid the 15% OAS recovery rate that otherwise would have been in addition to her tax rate. In short, factor OAS recovery into your rate arbitrage. Once you've sized up RRSP trade-offs, the question becomes, where do those extra savings go? Two obvious spots are TFSA and non-registered accounts. Both dodge the future tax traps we just covered, but in different ways. Let's start with the TFSA. In 2025, the annual limit is $7,000, and if you've never contributed, the lifetime room is much larger thanks to carry forward. TFSA contributions are made with after-tax dollars, so there's no deduction upfront, but every dollar grows tax-free, and withdrawals are not counted as income, which means they won't trigger the OAS clawback. Think of it as your no-strings-attached account. You can take money out without pushing yourself into a higher bracket or losing benefits. For someone like Sam from earlier, the TFSA is often the first stop once RRSP contributions start looking less attractive. Then there's non-registered investing. It's not completely tax-free, but the growth can be taxed more favorably than RRIF withdrawals. As of now, only 50% of capital gains are taxable, so if you make a $10,000 gain, only $5,000 is going to be included in your taxable income. And that's a far lighter tax hit compared to the full 100% inclusion for RRIF withdrawals, and may help to avoid the extra 15% OAS clawback entirely. You can also lean towards eligible Canadian dividends, which get a federal and provincial tax credit, often bringing the effective tax rate into a lower range for many retirees. So here's a quick example. David and Anna are approaching retirement with $1.8 million in RRSPs and $50,000 of unused TFSA room. They max the TFSA first, knowing those withdrawals won't ever count as income or triggering any OAS clawback. With the rest of their savings, they start building a dividend growth portfolio in a non-registered account. Eligible Canadian dividends in their bracket face an effective tax rate of around 25 to 30%, far lower than the 43% they'd be paying pulling the same amount from a RRIF. The result? They have one bucket that's tax-free, TFSA, and one that's taxed at a preferential rate, the non-registered account. That mix keeps their taxable income low enough to avoid the OAS clawback while still meeting the retirement spending goals. The bottom line is that the TFSA is your tax-free buffer, and a well-managed non-registered account is your capital gains and dividend buffer. Using both together, they give you more control over how much taxable income you show in retirement, and that's the real key to avoiding those nasty tax surprises. Another piece of the puzzle is the RRIF minimum withdrawal. By the end of the year you turn 71, any RRSP has to be converted to a RRIF or an annuity. From that point on, you're required to withdraw a set percentage each year, 5.4% at age 72, and it goes up as you age. And here's why that matters. Suppose you've been deferring RRSP or RRIF withdrawals until age 72, planning to live off of your TFSA and non-registered investments first. If you've got $1.5 million in that RRIF, the first year's minimum withdrawal is just over $80,000, and CPP, OAS, and any other income, and you could find yourself over the OAS clawback threshold. At that point, you're paying regular income tax plus the 15% clawback on part of your OAS, an effective rate that's much higher than even your tax bracket. One way to manage this is to start withdrawing earlier in your 60s, perhaps when your income is lower. Pulling money out before age 72 from your RRIF would reduce your RRIF balance, which in turn lowers the size of future mandatory withdrawals. Think of it like pruning a hedge before it gets too big to manage. There's also pension income splitting. After age 65, up to 50% of eligible pension income, including RRIF withdrawals, can be shifted to a spouse in a lower tax bracket. If one spouse earns $40,000 less than the other, splitting that income could save several $1,000s of tax a year. It's a simple move that can make your overall withdrawal plan much more efficient. The key takeaway: RRIF minimums are a forced tax event. Plan for them early, use strategic withdrawals to shrink future minimums, and make use of income splitting where it makes sense. Together, those strategies can save you a significant amount over the course of your retirement. I've covered off quite a bit, and this could be a lot to take in. Let me strip it down to a simple 5-step process you can actually use. Step 1, first figure out where your retirement income will come from. Add up your CPP, OAS, any pensions, what you expect from RRIF withdrawals, plus rental or business income if you have it. Step 2, run those numbers through the current federal and provincial tax brackets, and don't forget the OAS clawback line, which is $93,454 for 2025. That will show you where your marginal effective rates really sit. Step 3. Compare your tax rate now to what you expect it'll be when you begin to withdraw your money in the future in retirement. If your future rate, including clawbacks, is the same or higher than today, that's a big red flag. In that case, it might make more sense to shift new savings into your TFSA or maybe even a non-registered account instead of adding more and more to your RRSP. Step 4. Think about a few advanced moves. You can pull some RRSP money in lower income years before 72 to shrink your future RRIF minimums, or think about pension income splitting after age 65 if your spouse is in a lower tax bracket. And consider favoring capital gains in non-registered accounts since only half is taxable and you still have a bit of control as to when you recognize those gains. And lastly, step 5, repeat this checkup every year. Tax brackets move, thresholds change, and your own numbers will shift too. Follow those steps, forecast, map, compare, choose, and review. And you'll always know where each dollar is going to give you the most after-tax value. That's how you turn "I hope this works" into "I know this works." All right, let's pull this together. We've talked about the tipping point where RRSPs stop giving you the tax break you think they are. We've seen how in retirement, things like RRIF minimums, OAS clawbacks, and other income thresholds can quietly push your tax rate way higher than it is today. And here's the real takeaway. Your next RRSP contribution or your next withdrawal isn't just about the tax break you get this year. It's about what that move will cost or save you down the road. That means knowing your future income picture, not just hoping it all works out. If your RRSP is heading toward the $1 million mark, or you can see your retirement income brushing up against the OAS clawback zone, it might be time to give more love to your TFSA or non-registered accounts. Not because RRSPs are bad, but because they may no longer be the right tool for the job. If you track these shifts carefully, especially the withdrawal math, you can stack the odds in your favor. Lower taxes, more flexibility, and fewer surprises. That's the kind of planning that quietly builds a better outcome, not just a bigger account. So here's the question. When was the last time you ran your own RRSP rate test? Not just what's deductible today, but what it'll cost you in 10, 20, or 30 years. If this video got you thinking, or maybe even made you raise an eyebrow at your current strategy, drop a comment below. Tell me what surprised you most or what you'd like me to dig into next. And if you're looking at your own numbers and thinking, okay, I need to know where I stand, then let's talk. There's a link in the description to book a discovery call. We'll go through your portfolio, your income, your future tax rates, and figure out what makes the most tax smart sense for you. And hey, if you found this helpful, feel free to drop a like and go ahead and hit subscribe. Hit that little bell too so you don't miss what's coming next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.